Regular meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission to order. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Lost it. All right. Commissioner Hall.
Here.
Commissioner Dave Rothland.
Here.
Commissioner Quijano.
Here.
Commissioner John Beeson.
Here.
Commissioner Robert White.
Here.
Commissioner Anna Epperson.
Here.
Commissioner Max Cope.
Here.
Everybody's here. You have quorum.
All right, thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. I'd like to take a moment to explain the order of the meeting. Specifically, it relates to the hearing of the applications on tonight's agenda. Each case will be called, and we'll first hear the presentation and recommendations, staff presentation and recommendations. Following this, the commissioners who served on the review committee will present their observations and recommendations. At this point, the applicant will have an opportunity to step forward and provide any comments or additional information about the application. Once the applicant has finished, members of the public who wish to provide comments on the current case may do so, while please noting the time limit of 3 minutes per person. Everyone who steps forward will need to state their name aloud for the record and sign in at the sheet located at the podium and limit their comments to the application at hand. Following any public comment, the applicant may be called back to the podium to rebut any public comments and answer questions that the commission may have. Once all questions have been answered, the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate the application, make a motion, have a discussion, and then vote. If any members of the public would like to speak to general preservation topics and not to any specific application, opportunities provided during the public commentary following the approval of the agenda. Everyone who would like to address the commission may do so and will be asked to state their name aloud for the record and sign in at the front podium. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Your comments are valuable to the commission. I will now introduce to the commissioners, even though we did this at roll call. Commissioner Keanu is to my left. Commissioner Hall is way down there. Commissioner Rockland's in between the two of them.
As I am.
Commissioner White right here. Commissioner Epperson and Commissioner Cope way down at the end. What do I do here now? The approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Hearing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. All right, and then we move to audience participation. Do we have any members of the public who would like to come forward and speak for the record? Okay. The next item is unfinished business, which we have none. And then we move on to hearings for F1. This is 303 South Ashley. Ms. Thatcher.
303 South Ashley currently is the home of the Beer Grotto. The rear stuccoed part of the building is a 1920s era gas station, the Stabler filling station. It's kind of hard to see in these photos. The front brick portion that you see here on the front right is an addition from probably the 1980s. There's a little bit of history there from Grace Shackman, if you're interested. It says that it used to be Spanish style, the garage in the back, which I would have loved to have seen, but we have never, ever found a photo of it, unfortunately. In June of 2014, the HDC approved an application to install 2 new signs and a front door for the Beer Grotto. It's at the southeast corner of South Ashley Street and East Liberty Street. Just next door here to the left is the Ann Arbor Art Center. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to add a large fixed canopy over the courtyard between the front addition and the filling station in the back. The canopy has panels that zip in and out to make a seasonal enclosure. A couple of photos here. This is the corner of Ashley and Liberty. You can see back here there's a temporary tent that's been there for a couple of years, is currently undergoing zoning enforcement. I do not know if that is the impetus for this application, but I will be happy when it is no longer there, because it's really something that I probably should have worked on a long time ago. Here's the tent in the back. This is the back corner of the site. This is what I'm calling the courtyard. Fence along the sidewalk, and this is an adjoining building that it butts right up against. Back here, this blue wall here is the old filling station. There are 2, you can still see 2 bays on the filling station if the tent weren't there, but they've been infilled with glass, so they're just big windows now instead of car garage doors. This is looking south down Ashley. This is the front closest to Liberty part of the tent. They're proposing to put a canopy. Here's that area. The filling station is angled here, and this is that new brick part that you see on the front. The canopy is proposed to go here. It's pretty much where that tent is right now, so that gives you a pretty good idea of its size. The treatment of the ground, it has some brick pavers and some concrete, is not proposed to change. And this area just south of the canopy would remain open. It's got a couple planters. There's a tree back there. And it would end basically at the south wall of this addition up here. The canopy, the posts supporting it are inset. It's on the plans. We'll get to it a foot or two to accommodate the eave overhang so that it doesn't encroach into the right-of-way, which is on the other side of the fence. Here's a little bit better photo from sunnier days with the tent with the walls taken off. Lots of outdoor patio seating there. Old filling station in the back. One interesting thing is that the front wall of the building has this blue stuccoed wall that's very similar and an old window in it. So that's similar to the filling station part in the back. So I've always wondered if if the older part of the building just wrapped around up here and maybe that was the office or something, but I don't know. We've never figured that out because, again, we've never found photographs. So here's a drawing showing the fixed canopy. Black, it's a vinyl or canvasy material. It's got a large plastic panel clear on the top to let light into it, and then panels can be added to make it more of a three-season type treatment. There's the existing fence. You can see how those posts are set in a little bit to line the eave up with the fence. It tucks in nicely under the existing eave of the roof on the front addition, and it's got enough slope on it, hopefully, to get water and snow off of the top. There's another look at it. So this building is tough because it's a contributing structure. You can pick out the gas station if you're looking for one and the bays where the vehicles used to pull in, but it doesn't have a lot of character-defining features yet. Fortunately, what they're proposing to do here is not permanently permanent in nature and is pretty easily reversible. There's a system of attaching I can't remember the strip that the whole thing hangs off of onto the wall, which will be minimally invasive to the concrete block of the blue filling station part of the building, and again, very reversible and pretty transparent. You'll still be able to see through it. Other nice thing about it is this will not be conditioned space, so we don't count it as interior space, meaning it's not like an addition where they could go in later and blow out that whole wall of the filling station and just make it one big giant room. So this still preserves that historic character, but still gives them another room to sit people in. It's just a slightly more temporary nature. It's got a door here, so you can get in and out. There are very strict fire code requirements for structures like this, and I'm sure that it meets the egress requirements and the fire code requirements. There are roller screens. That sounds to me like something that goes up and down, but our applicants can talk about that in a second. Again, tucks very nicely underneath the eave of the addition here, hangs off the building in the back. That's a good shot. There are more drawings in the packet than we're showing here, but that shows you some of the roof structure. The canopy is 26 feet wide and between 15 and 28 feet deep, depending on where you measure it here. Just to be clear, it is intended to stay there year-round, and it will need to be site planned because it is additional year-round seating for the restaurant, for the beer grotto. So from the Secretary of Interior standards, number 1 says that a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. 2 says that the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. 9 says that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property will be unimpaired. From the Secretary of the Interior's Guidelines for Building Site, recommended is designing an exterior addition which is compatible with the historic character of the site and which preserves the historic relationship between the building or buildings, landscape features, and open space. I think that this accomplishes that by still remaining the feel of an open patio, but allowing it to be used in cooler weather as well. Removing non-significant buildings, additions, or site features which detract from the historic character of the site. From the guidelines for the district or neighborhood, not recommended is introducing new construction that's visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's appropriate to locate a required addition on the least character-defining elevation and keeping it subordinate in volume to the historic building, and locating and designing a new addition so that significant site features, including mature trees and landmark status trees, are not lost or damaged. The staff does believe that this work is appropriate, meets the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines and the Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Myself and Commissioner Cope are on the review committee. You want to start this one?
Sure.
Give the report.
It was such a nice day on Monday when we were out there. I generally agree with staff on this one. I think it's a very good solution. It does meet our guidelines. I think it does push the boundaries a little bit as far as space and sizing goes. But being that it was totally open, 8 or 9 months out of the year, I think we're going to get a better look at the building with this structure than what they've been kind of doing. It is removable. Even though it's going to be there permanently, it seems pretty easily taken apart and down. The one thing that came up at the site visit was, anchoring into the stucco on the original filling station. Us not knowing really what's behind the stucco and if we are actually destroying really nice bricks back there, and maybe piloting and finding out, first what's back there, behind there, before blasting holes into the wall.
Good. And I think another thing that came up on the site was about the fence. You'll see in the application there is an image that shows a new fence. That issue also popped up. A little bit clarification from the applicant.
Which image?
It was
One of
the
those that
nice one with the red umbrellas in the front. There you go.
Oh, that's the sidewalk. That's not the site. You can see the site.
West of the fence.
And these are on the sidewalk.
Oh, that's seating.
The passages
Oh,
between the seating and the existing
So is
fence.
that added in front?
Yeah, it's the same as, it's like this, but that fence is out here.
Out there?
It's just a barrier for the sidewalk.
Okay. We just didn't see
Seating.
that on site, so we looked at
Yeah.
this. And went, oh, is
Yeah,
there a new
yeah, yeah.
fence or something?
Yeah, that's with the sidewalk furniture. Yeah.
So that's when they get their sidewalk permit.
Yeah, that's
Put that
shown
up
for
temporarily.
contrast. Yeah.
So the wrought iron fence
Yeah,
stays.
wrought iron fence stays.
Things out there temporary.
And then we'll have to ask the applicant, or maybe Ms. Thatcher knows about the material of the existing building, and if it's CMU or brick.
I believe it's CMU, but we can
Okay.
confirm that. Yeah.
All right, so we'll start that part. Would the applicant please come forward, provide your name for the record, and sign in? And then if you have anything else to add to the staff report, feel free.
Good evening.
Hi.
Damien Farrell Design Group, architect, and I'm here with Lou Meeks, who's my client and the owner of Beer Grotto. And Jill, thanks as always for your great help and working. She's terrific. She really is to work with. So should come out in public. So I think we cleared up the issue of the fence. Yes, my bad with the graphics there. That was just intended to show when the sidewalk seating gets introduced, that we have to do some sort of barrier there, and that'll be part of that application. As far as the building is concrete block, I have some pictures. We could just pass them around of the interior. You can very clearly see the coursing of the CMU on the inside. So that's what we will do, is that we will obviously trace through from that in order to put the anchors. And if you look on the Marygrove drawings, the sealed engineering drawings on the front page in your package, this little detail up here in the top right-hand corner actually specifies that we have to go into the grout in order to meet the structural binding because of the lack of tie-in through the wall of a concrete block. So we really have to accomplish that. And I have with me, this is one of the brackets and the screw that will go into the grout. So there are 15 of these. And this is a piece of the top rail. So the canvas gets wrapped around this goes into there, and that's fixed to the wall. So 15 of these little pieces, and that's the top rail there. And what I also have is a sample of the two actual materials that we'll be using. And for the record, this was not precipitated by the action from City on the tent. We started working on this early last summer, doing some interior planning, first of all, to look at how the seating works and how the bar works and so on, and this was a continuation of that design process. So this really was started before that. I think Lou recognized a long time ago that that structure doesn't really serve him very well. It was there when he bought the business. It's not a pleasant structure, and it's not really functional, frankly. I mean, it really doesn't work well for a three-season structure. So Marygrove have done a lot of these. The structure on Argerios, for instance, is a Marygrove product. I think they are the leader in the area of these kinds of structures. I was just at Aqua Restaurant in Plymouth over the weekend, if any of you have been there, and they have a considerable addition. We were actually sitting out in this weather, and it was quite comfortable, and it's one of the Marygrove structures. So that's a high-quality structure. The panels are nice and taut, and as you can see from the clear panel too, I'm pretty confident that you'll actually be able to see through the structure, and that the large light panel on the roof will really bring natural light, especially in the afternoon, obviously, onto the facade of the old building, and create some vision of that as well. So the panel that is on your drawings is to scale. That is the size it will be. The drawings are to scale too. So happy to answer any other questions that you might have. So,
well, this being block, I don't know how important it is that we have to hit the mortar joints. It's still pretty important.
It's still recommended in the guidelines that you hit mortar joints.
Because at this angle, with the way that they're marked in each red circle, and with it going up at an angle, you're not going to hit joints every time, just because the block is 8 inches.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to, and so it's really the number of, in talking to the engineer, it's the number of anchors.
Yeah, they just need a certain amount.
So he's not too concerned about the spacing, even if and it's really, it's the resistance that he's looking for with 15 anchors.
Okay. Just so we know in the plan drawing that the guy installing it knows that they don't have to be at every truss location, that he can find the grout and go in that way. Yeah. Make sense? Okay. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant? I just kind of took that going.
Kind of on that point, you mentioned the angle of the rear portion of the roof. Is there a reason why, it's great that in the front end, we're below the existing roof eave of the circa 1980s building, but is there a reason why we continue sloping up at that angle when we hit the historic building and creating
it's just to get runoff. You know, if you look at the drawing, the pitch is really shallow. If you look at the section, for instance, on the Marygrove drawings, you can see how shallow this is, and I'd be concerned about getting to the point where it's almost flat. So there's a ridge line you know, coincidentally, these 2 points of the building,
Mouse right there.
What was that?
Right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that
seems
spot has a-
awkward.
there's a small little wall that is washed that comes out from the 80s edition.
Well, is there a gutter?
yes, there
Is there a gutter on the hip roof?
Yes.
Is that what the intention is?
Yeah, so, you know, it's not a tight fit at that point. It's a combination of the fabric coming down to the outer edge of the gutter. And so it is something that's, you know, Lou's going to have to take care of as far as snow is concerned. That flap can be lifted, snow can be got down out of there. But I've seen similar conditions. They've shown me conditions where they've had awkward junctions to work in. You know, it's an awkward area to work in.
Yep.
So we try to keep that as low as possible without getting to a flat condition. I don't think you really notice much of if you look at some of my
From the
perspective
street view.
sketches from the street level, I don't think you'll see much of that because so we're 8 foot, you know, at the eave line, rising to about 11, and then a very gentle rise up into that corner. I think you probably from the other side of the street, you might just see that view now that's on your screens. But as you can see, it's really, and that is accurate. That is truly to scale. Those are the exact dimensions. 8 foot, 11 inch, I beg your pardon, 10 inch fascia, 11 inch setback to the columns under that eave of the fabric.
So I kind of get the sense that standards 1, 2, 9, and 10 are fairly applicable to this and certainly comply. The question I have is about the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for rehab that talks about the building site, where it says, designing new exterior additions to historic buildings or adjacent new construction which is compatible with the historic character of the site and which preserve the historical relationship between the building or buildings. So you had mentioned it's kind of open, transparent nature. You know, the tent that's there now certainly doesn't allow for that as much, but this being temporary gives it kind of a feel of that anyway, but I wanted to see what your response, what you kind of thought was.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the panels are going to stay off as long as possible. It's much more conducive for summer use with the panels not in place. And so some of them are zip out and then the others are roll up. So they'll go up above there. And then the door has to be there, as Jill mentioned. So that actually has to have a column either side. But it's just a regular storm door, aluminum storm door with glass panels. And so in the summertime, that can actually be taken off its hinges as well. So it's really, in our mind, got a very important function in the summertime too. That's a west-facing terrace. And as we know, our long summer evenings can be very uncomfortable here in Ann Arbor, so it's going to serve dual purpose from that point of view. But we've made the clear panels as large as we can. They need about 6 inches around the edge of the clear panel and the edge to the zippers to get a decent sew there, or a seam, I guess, on the way it works. So we've maximized those as much as we can. And then, as I say, with the large skylight panel as well. So I think the daylighting is going to be far more impactful with this design to the interior than with the tent. Mm-hmm. And the tent really just, and also the white really stands out, I think. And that was our intention with going to black, is that it's more, it recedes more, is our feeling.
Okay,
so
thanks.
the clear panels far outweigh the solid panels just visually.
Damien, what's the height from sidewalk to the eave?
8 foot.
It's 8 feet, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions out there? All right, this is where I'm supposed to move to the public hearing. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on these agenda items? All right, seeing none. No more questions from commissioners. I will now close the public hearing portion of the application. The applicant may please be seated. Make sure you signed in. You just did. Good. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on the application?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Coe.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 303 South Ashley Street, a contributing property in the Main Street Historic District, to add a fixed canopy with removable panels as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Ann Arbor Historic Design Guidelines for all additions. and the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitations and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for building site and neighborhood settings.
Support.
Seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Raffo?
Yeah. Jill, you mentioned site plan review. Is that where questions about like stormwater runoff and stuff like that, that'll be handled in that committee? Okay. And then for the review committee, there's going to be concrete piers under the post, and I was just wondering, did you look at there's a patio there? Is any of that character defining in any way, or is it just not contributing?
There was snow, and with
snow.
the original, the tent that's there now,
Yeah,
the building wasn't even visible.
there's kind of a,
So we weren't able to observe
To see
the
block,
floor,
okay.
yeah.
the ground. If it's relative to what their design is and stamped, where the concrete is and where the brick pavers are, it looks like the framing goes around where the brick pavers are. So if those pavers there are, part of the original footprint out there, then they're missing that area. They're
Okay.
not hitting that with any posts or drilling.
Okay. Yeah, so other than those questions, and, obviously this sort of solution is really strong in terms of, standard 10. It could certainly be removed, and while preserving the historic, the character-defining features. My only concern is what Commissioner Quijano brought up, where the new structure goes above that ridge line, and there will be snow sitting against that stucco that wall has never, well, for a long time, probably experienced that sort of condition. I guess it's a small concern, I think, but it'd be great if somehow that condition didn't exist, but I do understand from the applicant why, I'm sure that was part of the design discussion, and for reasons of drainage, basically, the slope had to be greater. And, it all sort of starts from that 8-foot eave height, which you want that, you don't want to go lower. I think 8 feet is probably a good height there. And so you could make that lower and then bring everything down, but then it's not going to feel as open, and so that would detract from the project. So that's just that one thing that's sort of, catching my eye here.
Any other discussion?
I guess I would just ask the other commissioners, is there any concern of the material? I personally think the black is appropriate, but maybe if we could look at it again, it just seems like it's, I understand it's matte, but it's like, it's on the west, is it still gonna reflect in a way? Like, it's not like a true canvas where it would absorb, it's kind of this rubberized finish. Just bringing it up in discussion if anyone else has any thoughts or concerns.
Could we ask, is there a warranty on the material, and if so, do you know what the warranty, 10-year warranty? Okay. And that's some data.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so,
Oh, so just for the record, that was 10 years. I got the,
10 years.
no, that's good. I just wanted to say it so people listening could hear.
So, I thought the selection of the black works pretty well, and in terms of its semi-matte, kind of reflective, not too bad. I would say either way, it seemed that it would blend well with the site anyway, just because of the hard 80s roof structure has this kind of matte, shiny paint on it. So to me, I thought it was going to complement it pretty well too, especially with the downspouts, the black downspouts. So I really wasn't too worried about it. And the metal mullions in the framing, which we don't really see exactly on this, but some of the windows had some of the black mullion details. Yeah. All right. Are we ready to vote? All right. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, say no.
No.
All right. Your motion carries. Where's that part I'm supposed to read? Oh, here it is.
Yeah, sorry.
Your application has been approved. You will receive written notification from staff, and should you have any further questions, feel free to contact staff. Be sure to pull any necessary building permits before starting the work. Thank you. All right, on to the next agenda item, F2, 240 Crest. Ms. Thatcher. What's on next?
We have 403 Liberty up.
Oh, well, we have 403 F.
Which one's next? 240, let's do 240 Crest. They're just screwed up in the slideshow. They're correct in the packet.
We should do Crest first.
You just got the previews of it.
Okay.
It's good to have previews.
All right. 240 Crest is a 1.5-story shingle-sided craftsman. Features end gables, a full-width front porch, and centered front and rear shed dormers. First appears in the 1918 city directory as the home of Emmanuel J. Sott, a policeman. In 2009, an application for a rear addition was denied by the Historic Commission. The property is on the west side of Crest Avenue, south of West Washington and north of Buena Vista. And the applicant is seeking HDC approval to undertake repair and restoration work, construct a 2-story rear addition, add a deck between the addition and historic house, and add a saddle to the roof and garage door to the rear of the attached garage. This house has undergone some challenges in the last few years. It was being, I'm not going to get too much into its history, but let's just say that there were a lot of electrical problems that have been resolved. There were some missing sections of floors and walls and things. The interior, the front's always looked, you know, kind of okay from the street. No signs of that so much. It does have shingle cladding throughout. This is an attached garage that at some point the auto door was removed and these French doors were placed there. The garage does date back to the period of significance, so it is a contributing part of the structure. It's not counted toward the floor area, though. I think it was being used as an art studio on the inside, but it's not finished space per se. Here's the south side of the building. Looks like there's a door over here on the side. When you get around to the back, it gets a little more problematic. I don't know what's been going on back here. It didn't look this bad when I was out there in 2009, but that was kind of a long time ago now. There's a deck back here, and this is that wall of the garage. There's another modern structure in the back. Never did figure out if this was ever used as a garage or not, or if it's just a big shed. But either way, it's back there. It's in the backyard. There's no driveway leading to it per se, but it has some sort of partially finished space inside, I believe. It's in the back corner. This is the neighbor's house looking through the backyard. Here's another view. This is the house to the south. Note the spatial relationships here between this backyard, which is still pretty open, and this one where the original house probably stopped right about here. And under the old ordinance, a very large addition was placed on it, which would not be appropriate by today's ordinance standards. But keep that in mind when we're talking about an addition off of the rear of this building, since it's already there. Here's a footprint of the existing house. It's basically a square. It has the little There's a little bump out here on the back. And let me see if I can get back to that better picture. It runs the width, though this part is a little bit sketchier, but this piece, which bumps out a few feet, is proposed to stay. Just keep that in mind when we get to the footprint up here. That bump is right here. The proposed addition that you see hashed out here is 16 feet 8 inches by 19 feet 8 inches. Footprint is 328 square feet, or 627 square feet on 2 floors. The footprint is 46%. The footprint of the proposed addition is 46% of the footprint of the historic house. And the addition is 50% of the floor area of the existing house. So it does meet the city's design guidelines that say the addition should exceed neither half of the original building's footprint nor half of the original building's total floor area. Existing floor plan, pretty basic on the first floor, entry, living, dining, kitchen. So that's a bath back there, and then this is just another space. This is the existing second floor above it. And so all of the hashed area is existing, and this is the proposed footprint of the addition on the back. It fills in that corner nicely between the house and the garage. Deck wraps around here to give access to the backyard, and there's some sort of a door wall or door slider into a new family room on the ground floor. Second floor, master bedroom, reconfiguring the existing floor plan upstairs. So from the front, things that will look different are a little saddle that's proposed here between the addition and the ridge of the garage. The infill double doors would be replaced with a garage door again. On the back, you see the addition here. The ridge height is the same as the ridge of the house. Looks really tall and narrow here. Bear in mind that this is contorted on this screen. It looks taller than it needs to. But this is that little bump out that I was mentioning before. A portion of the rear shed dormer is preserved back there. There's a new garage door proposed on the back so that you could essentially walk all the way through the garage if you wanted to.
We drive through.
You could. And there, and you can see the little saddle here. Cladding on the addition is proposed to be a hardy panel, so it will be smooth and it will contrast with shingles on the rest of the house. Here is the garage side, the north side of the building. Existing garage here. You can see that the sidewall is flush with the sidewall of the house, though the roofs will intersect here, and you'll be able to see where the original sloped roof will still exist there. So it will be clear where this part of the house stopped and the new addition starts. Little bump out on the back on the second floor. Roofing would match the roofing on the existing house. And once again, here are the hardy panels. Nice door wall leading out onto that deck on the south elevation. Here's that little bump out. Shed dormer preserved so you can read. You can imagine how it would have looked when it was going all the way across. People in the know about houses like this would conclude that it was probably a matching dormer to the one on the front, since it starts in the same place. It just won't stop to the north in the same place. All the windows are square or double hung. I had a question about window materials. Staff is recommending either wood windows or clad wood windows on the addition. Same with the garage door. It's not specified, it just says new garage door for the front and the rear. I think that a roll-up door or a double leaf door would be appropriate. We have no idea what the original door looked like. If we knew, we would possibly hold them to whatever that design was for the front, for the street facing. But since we don't, I don't even know if that's the original opening size. I think a roll-up or a double leaf is fine. I did note in here that pulling a car through the garage into the backyard is strictly prohibited without Historic District Commission approval of backyard parking. I don't believe that that was the intent, but the applicants can talk about that in a second. Garage drawings say redo garage siding. The garage siding looks, if you go back to the photos, it does look a little different. It's sort of a variable size. I think there's been some replacement going on there where the siding on the house is much more regular. So I think that that's probably not the original siding anyway. The garage may have been built 10 years after the house. That may explain it, but that siding has some deterioration problems and lots of patches and infills. I think that this side, the side facing the house that looks smooth. That doesn't look clad, so maybe that's plywood or something. Petitioner can talk about that in a second. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that I wouldn't lose any sleep over recladding that garage with new wood shingles to match and make it a little more weather tight. There's no guardrail required or proposed on the deck. Deck materials are not specified, but I think it's okay to have it be a wood deck or an imitation wood deck. It's mostly out of sight. It's low to the ground. There is a fence here. We don't really count that. If the fence were down, it would still be pretty invisible from the street because of its low profile. The list of work in the application includes finishing the existing outbuilding in the backyard, but no details are provided. So this statement is assumed to be just informational. Maybe there's restoration work going on. Maybe it's all interior, but no exterior changes are proposed in this application. The Secretary of Interior standards that best apply, I read number 2 to you, and I read number 9 to you, and I read number 10 to you. From the Secretary of Interior's guidelines, recommended is designing new exterior additions to historic buildings which are compatible with the historic character of the site and preserve the historic relationship between the building or buildings and the landscape. Guidelines for all additions from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines say it's appropriate to limit the size and scale of the addition in relationship to the historic building so it does not diminish or visually overpower the building. The addition's footprint, I already read to you about that, should not exceed half of the building's footprint or half of the original building's total floor area. The addition is tall and narrow, and its placement between the attached one-car garage on the north and the south wall of the house will minimize its visibility from the street. Staff believes that the proposed work does not destroy historic materials, features, spaces, or spatial relationships that characterize the property, and that the new addition is adequately differentiated from the old and compatible in size, scale, and design. Staff recommends approval. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Myself and Commissioner Cope, we're on the review committee. You want to start the review again, or do you want me to?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So where to start? It's definitely perceived as a very small house coming up to it from the street. The street front is fairly similar with all the rhythm of the houses in the adjacent neighborhood. What we can tell right off the bat going into the backyard is that all the houses around it are huge. They're big, they have big additions. This is the one on the block that hasn't been blown up in the back yet. So in terms of the other quirkiness of the building, there was a discussion out on site with the builder that we met with about the siding, so we'll have to get some clarification, siding on the garage, I should say. So we'll have to get some clarification from the owners. What else did we talk about there? It definitely looks in bad shape in the back. There's definitely been some long-term, I guess, journey going on with the house. The addition, I have some questions to ask of the designer concerning the big saddle that's going across the garage, because that'll certainly affect its overall structure and its view from the street, especially this view that we see right now up there. What else? Commissioner Cope, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I guess I was a little concerned with the saddle as well. In the drawings, you see it there, but I understand its function of watershed between where the two roofs come together. But it just never, I don't think it's very clear in the drawings, what its specific use is or why it's there. A couple of things that I was, one of the things that we look at is keeping the inset corners and watching ridge lines and how roofs come across. That's having a differentiating height. With this particular house, it is not a very tall two-story house. So extending the ridge height seemed somewhat appropriate there. And you can't see the back corner of the other house because of the attached garage. So coming flush across there didn't seem like much of an issue to me either. That's about it.
All right. Would the applicant please come forward, provide your name for the record, and sign in? Do you have anything to add to the staff report or the review committee reports?
Good evening. My name's Carl Huter. I'm the architect on the project. This, of course, is a little house on the street. I want to go over a few things, and then you can ask me questions. The garage obviously appears as an addition to the original house, and it was built out of what I call a clay tile stucco block, the old clay tile with the ridges in it, so you could apply stucco. And at some point in its life, someone decided to side over it with cedar shakes, and it looks like it was probably a homeowner weekend kind of construction. And those of you who went to the site, it was obvious that the quality of the workmanship on that is vastly inferior to the original house. And so part of our work, we want to, and I don't think the siding lines line up also. I think there's a problem there. So what we want to do is strip that old white cedar shake off and then put new on of the same quality level of installation as the original house. So those are together. The addition is purposely a hardy panel, so it's a less detailed and vastly distinct from the original house. Wanted to create that separation. We need the garage door on the back to allow access into the yard. There is no way to drive a vehicle into that backyard to work on things like the foundation work that's proposed to do to replace the collapsing foundation walls on the house. The little garage way in the back, my assumption, it was the original garage to the house, and the driveway went all the way back there, as many of the homes in the Old West Side did. And previous ownership has decided to turn that into a habitable space, although based on my conversation with city staff, it was done without a permit. So we want to go in there and finish the work, but get it all done under a permit. And so it can be, a heated, enclosed space like it is now. What else? I think that covers the major things. And if you have questions, I want to say, in the upstairs of the house, the eaves are very low on the upstairs. I think the plate height is around 7 feet at the highest point. And so, as you see the dormer there, the eaves on the new addition, we're also going to have a 7-foot plate height there and go up. So we marry into the eave line that this dormer has already created, and you can see that on the drawing. Okay, then I'm open for questions.
All right. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioners, questions?
I mean, you can go. I know you had.
Yeah, I've got something, but you can go ahead first.
Sure. Yeah, I thought you were going to describe more about the saddle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. So there's a problem there of detaining snow and water and whatnot, and we need to move it out of there. So I thought if we could put a saddle in between the ridge and the wall of the house and divert that water to the back, and not move it forward to the street. The exact configuration of that saddle, I guess as I was working on these elevation sketches, I was playing with different things. There's
Would you say that the saddle is, the high point of the saddle is centered on the garage, or is it off to one side or the other?
No, I think I'd move it forward. I mean, the view, the flat on elevation from the street doesn't
Yeah, we
matter where it is. It's, I just didn't want to get, getting the water off that intersecting corner there is problematic. So it would be much easier to get it to the back and get it off and deal with it there. Also, that's where we're going to have our stormwater detention feature, and and we can move the water there. So it's just not. It would be inappropriate to try and put something flat in there. It's just going to create problems to the homeowner in the future, and plus snow collecting in there and whatnot. So the exact specific details of that saddle have not been worked out.
But are you proposing a wall that would be
No.
in the same plane?
No,
as
it's just a roof plane.
Right, so the roof plane slopes to the back.
Yes.
At the front of the garage,
There'll be a
above the
plane,
roof,
but
there'll be a wall that's flush with the front of the garage that goes up to the top of the saddle, and then it slopes back, a single slope?
No, I want to angle it so it looks like a roof feature and not
Okay.
a flat wall.
Okay, so
So it looks like roofing.
a steep roof at the front part of the garage.
Yep.
And then, like, maybe that's 5% of the whole length, and then the 95% of the rest is all going to the back, or something like that?
that
Do
would-
you see
that-
this elevation that's on the screen now?
It sounds like a reasonable,
Well, that's
somewhere-
total, that's a wall, that's
That's a full
that's
length.
shown as a vertical wall, but that's not
that's
what
not my
it
intention,
sounds
no.
like he's
So you're trying to
intending.
move it back and have a slope?
yeah, so
front.
it looks like a roof plane, not a wall plane.
Yeah. And we don't know if the existing garage is contributing, do we? Or we think it was? Or
The backyard or the attached?
the attached?
The attached
The
garage.
attached garage is contributing. It was built before 1925.
Okay.
Or it shows up in the 1925 Sanborn. The building in the backyard does not show up on any Sanborns until the 70s or something.
Really?
So I've always kind of speculated that that may have been moved from some other neighbor's property across the backyard and stuck there. Because it doesn't look like a new structure, but doesn't show up on the Sanborns. Unless they just didn't peek around into the backyard and didn't see it back there.
Yeah.
Carl, did you say that the garage, the two garage doors are for construction vehicles?
Right, and to get
Okay.
back, the backyard is a mess, and there's considerable amount of landscaping that's going to have to go back in there, so we need to get back there, and there's just no way
Right.
around that.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? All right. Moving to the public hearing, are there any members of the public who'd like to speak on this agenda item?
Robert?
Anybody? Anyone? All right. I now close the public hearing portion of the application. The applicant may please be seated. Nice. Would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioner Keano.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 240 Crest, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to undertake repair and restoration work, construct a two-story rear addition, add a deck between the addition and historic house, and add a saddle to the roof and garage door to the rear of the attached garage on the following conditions. Addition windows are wood or wood-clad, the deck is wood or imitation wood, and parking is not permitted in the backyard. The work as conditioned is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials, and relationship to the house and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for all additions and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for new additions, district or neighborhood setting, building site, and windows.
Support.
Seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion in the motion?
I think that I agree with the motion. On one more possible condition added in with having a little bit more detail on the saddle. I'd like to see if you're having shingles on the front side of it. And I think the angle of it and how it comes down on the backside doesn't matter, but how it's finished on the front. It should be addressed, you know, whether it's a flat wall or an angled wall. I think it should be written out in the application, and it could be a staff approval, even possibly with more detail.
Yeah, I would be I would feel really good about it if it matched the pitch of the garage roof. Like if the front matched the pitch of the garage roof, and then it just went back. You have thoughts?
Well, the architect mentioned, and I think I agree with him, that that's then bringing stormwater into that sort of tricky spot,
Yeah.
right where the garage meets the house and right where the driveway is. So then I guess you'd have a downspout, and then you have a downspout right on your driveway, right in front of your garage door.
That's true.
With nowhere, I mean, you could get a linear drain that, you know, like you could make it work, but
Yeah.
so what's the,
It's going to get water no matter what, but
Yeah.
you want to reduce the
Yes.
amount of water.
right, yeah. So I think it's an interesting idea that,
Yeah.
let's see what the solution is before.
Yeah, I'd like to see, you know, what the pitch of it is, what the face finish is going to be. Obviously, shingle is what I'm imagining. And just a little bit more detail on that. But I'm good to approve the rest of the emotion with that condition.
There it is.
It's a really tricky spot for a
Yeah,
builder.
especially trying to keep the overhang of the existing eaves on the house in the back as well. That's going to be a really tricky spot. Even adding a wall and trying to add anything as a curb in that area.
It's just a very odd conjoining area for any attached garage in house that I've seen. I've never seen it constructed like that, even in Burns Park. You don't see that.
Yeah, so I guess part of it is, you know, as the motion hits, how does this affect the motion, and should it affect the motion?
Could we ask for some sort of
Yeah.
follow-up on that?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah, do you want to add to the motion that staff will review the saddle drawing and when it comes in, and effectively, I'm going to ask one of the resident architects to
Yeah,
take a look at it,
Sounds good.
Yeah.
because it'll be shown on the building permit drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. So you're okay with adding that to the motion, that condition?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
you're okay with that?
Second.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I was wondering about the brick chimney that's existing, we didn't talk about it, but it looks like it's planning to be removed. On the picture, it looks like you could see a little bit of it, and it looks maybe historic, but possibly not character defining, but did anyone on the review committee happen to look at it, or, I mean, it's
pretty far up
not much to look at, I think, but
it's a
I wasn't there, so.
I would say, you know, I briefly stared at it, but
Yeah.
that was about it.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly typical square chimney.
Yeah, I
with
see it in the photo.
traditional brick, nothing magnificent about it. Is it character defining? I don't know. I didn't really see
I
a
feel
whole
like
lot of.
in the past with chimneys that haven't had any of them, you know, come up as character-defining features of the home.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless the whole home was brick, and then
Yeah,
it
there's
came
the
up a
big
brick side. And, yeah,
a
then-
side
but
chimney.
this ain't really saw, is it? Yeah, I mean, we don't see it in the drawing, so we're assuming it's coming down. Yep, okay, that's confirmation. I guess my only discussion points were on the guidelines, and, you know, this is a small house to begin with, like, in terms of its existing square footage. So anytime you double it or you add 50%, it's going to look big. And normally I would sit there and kind of give a little more grief to the applicant about that notion, but seeing as the houses nearby are pretty big to begin with,
Massive.
this seems perfectly appropriate to move in with the guidelines that we have in front of us to say that designing new additions in a manner that makes it clear what's historic is new, that, you know, I think you fit all these criteria. So me personally, I'm not in any disfavor towards how it's currently being shown. Any other discussion?
I support the project.
All right, we would vote.
Yes.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, your motion carries. There's a nice little thing I have to read on this. Here it is. The application has been approved. You will receive written notification from staff, and should you have any further questions, feel free to contact staff. Be sure to pull any necessary building permits before starting the work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to the other F3. 403 West Liberty.
Lots of photos. 403 West Liberty. On this lot, there was a 1.5-story house shown on this same footprint on the 1888 and 1892 Sanborn Fire Insurance maps. This 2.5-story brick Queen Anne was probably built in 1894. In that year, it was the home of F.G. Schleicher. House features a prominent stone foundation, porches on both street sides with fancy millwork, a round single-story bay window with a round bracketed eave and stone foundation, corner returns in some of the gables, some bracketed eaves, a clipped gable on the rear elevation, and round-topped attic windows. It's a fine example of the eclecticism of the Queen Anne single-family home. The single-car garage was added between 1916 and 1925 per Sanborn maps. It's on the south side of West Liberty at the southwest corner of 2nd Street, and the applicant is seeking HGC approval for many work items. There is an attached list that goes over it in more detail. The work includes removing all of the wooden fire escapes that you see on the structure, unblocking infilled windows, installing several egress windows and wells, replacing concrete porch steps in the front with wood, replicating the original porch skirting, constructing a new rear porch and stair to an existing door, lowering a non-original hump on the roof and adding a skylight to it, constructing a 3-car carport, adding pavers and a patio, and adding a 30-inch high wrought iron fence along the 2 street fronts. The biggest gift that you could ever give to this house is to get rid of all of those fire escapes. They're kind of outrageous. Here, this is the 2nd Street side of the house. You can see that there's a side entry porch here. It's got just these vertical, oh look, there's a good picture, vertical boards screening it right now. But up here you see the original very lovely millwork and turn posts and brackets and bead detail. Here at the base of those steps coming down is a window. That's one of the windows that we're going to talk about. Here is the turret on the corner. It's only 1 story high. I guess it's more of a bay window than a turret. But here's the front porch. You can see that it has very nicely detailed skirting boards. The skirting for the side porch is proposed to be replicated from this design. These are the concrete steps that are going away and being replaced with much more appropriate wooden steps. Obviously, this post is going to go away and all of these structures up here. There is a former window up here that's got a piece of plywood in it right now. I'm not sure if you can get out it or not. It doesn't matter. It would be restored to a window instead of an egress door thing that's there now. And the sill put back into place where it's supposed to go. I'm not sure if it's there or not. Yes, okay. Did you guys go up there? Good.
Nope.
Good, good. So the sill is up there. That's great. A few more details. Oh yeah, there you can see it right there. Yep. Here's the front door. Lovely, lovely front door. Just a very welcoming entry. Getting rid of these steps and putting in wood will be another very lovely finishing touch. Here's a window just to the east of the front door, between that and the bay turret. This one is proposed to be replaced with a new window. I'm going to get to those specifications in a couple of minutes. All right, now we're looking at the west side of the house. So 2nd Street is over here, and Liberty is over here. You can see how it's a walkout down here, which is very cool. This is a very tall block basement wall. I'm not sure I've seen another block basement wall this tall. Sorry, I'm stone, cut stone. I meant to say cut stone. But cool old windows, original sills, note these neat ones in the attic. This is the roof hump. It was presumably added on there to give headroom for stairs. Is that correct? Yeah. And they figured out a way to lower that. I'll show you a better photo in a minute. And then all of this stuff will be coming off of the back. Back here, there is an existing door, and there's a new back entry deck proposed here with a metal stair going up to it to replace all of this other stuff that's back here. There's another one of the windows that we're going to talk about. Oof, somebody didn't turn that tap off.
Oh, God.
Don't touch it now.
Don't touch it now.
Yeah.
Let it go.
There's another one that's boarded up currently.
And that's the window coming into the egress window.
Okay, so that one will become an egress window. And there is additional detail at your seat on these basement windows that was provided by the architect. Clarifies what's going on with 3 of those. There's that roof structure. This would be, instead of the roof would be pitched flatter, so it would be more low profile with a pretty large fixed daylight skylight window on the top. This is not, the most lovely thing, but I think with the roof lowered a little bit, it'll be pretty inconspicuous. I doubt that anyone will really be able to see that skylight up there. See, it's going to be up pretty high. Let me get a view from the street. It's one of those things that I had never even noticed on this house until it was pointed out to me, and now I notice it all the time. All right. All right, here we are on the back of the house. New porch proposed to go here, leading into a door that's behind these stairs. You can see there's an existing door here. The house is proposed to go from being a 10-bedroom boarding rooming house to a 2-unit, 10-bedroom rental rooming house. So the top, the basement walkout will be a 2-bedroom apartment, and then the upper 3 floors will be a 4-bedroom apartment. Maximum occupancy for a duplex is 4 people per unit. They will need a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, separate process. We don't need to worry about that. But it is going from a 10-person rooming house, maybe the maximum occupancy could even be higher than that, to maximum of 8 people, and likely to be less than that since the lower unit is only 2 bedrooms. So intensity-wise, it's definitely going in the right direction. Here's a view from the driveway. More stuff that's going to go away. This is where that porch is proposed to be added on the back. Here's the existing very cute little contributing garage, 1 car. Hope it's a small car, but not a very big garage. But right now, tenants are parking in this driveway, or you drive through between the house and the garage to a larger parking area that's in the backyard. And there that is. Here's the little garage. You drive your car through here. You can see some tracks in the snow. Cars, I've seen on aerial photos, parked both on this side and along the back toward this yellow house that you see in the back. I think it was a little bit harder to tell when you guys were out there in the snow where the tire tracks and things were. There is a 3-car carport proposed to be located parallel to Liberty Street, right in this area here, where cars, pretty much where cars are currently parking. We'll get to some drawings in a second that will make that more clear. You can see how it drops off here now. They'd like to install a retaining wall here of fieldstone, approximately 4 feet high. There are some stairs shown going down. It will sort of formalize the sunken effect that the back parking area has in relationship to the front lawn area. And here we're looking at Liberty, and here's that area where the retaining wall would be. You can see where it falls off here. There's some small trees here. This is probably the largest one around this area, and we'll have to, either ask the architect or look on the drawings to see if that tree would be impacted by the carport. I have no qualms about these little scrubby things being removed. Threw in a lot of pictures. There are some existing openings. There's an existing opening in the basement wall that would be restored into a window. This is going to make more sense when we look at the drawings. Just of you looking down 2nd Street, Argus Farm Stop is right over here. And a view up Liberty, looking west. The fascinating tombstone that's embedded in the walk. Not sure I would want to walk over that every day, but it's kind of cool.
But it's not a resident address.
12 years, 5 months, and 3 days. Dorothea. So here's a site plan drawing showing existing house. All of the work is numbered, so it's keyed back from the list that's attached in the packet. If you lose your bearings when you're going around the house. Here's the retaining wall, a couple of steps down to a new patio. From the patio are a set of metal stairs going up to a small new landing here to go into that existing back door. And next to the patio is the carport, pretty close to the property line. That leaves this driveway area open. This is where people are parking right now, though this retaining wall is pushed forward closer to the street. If you look at where it is right now, let me get back to those. You can see that it is, yeah, where was that good one? Well, it's not pushed forward a whole lot. It's kind of a little bit forward of this side gable. Where that drop is right now. And yeah, which is actually pretty much where it is right now. This is that, the gable would be right here. So carport goes here, a little bit to the side of the house, a little bit of space between it and the house, which is nice. Keep some separation. There are a good detailed list of what's going on with each of the elevations that are in the packet and here for reference if we need to look at them. There is a wrought iron fence proposed along both of the street sides, which I have no objections to. I think that it's perfectly appropriate to put a metal fence in front of a masonry house. This is an ornate enough house that it can handle an ornate fence. My only caveat is that it not be a salvaged fence, a historic fence taken from some other property that would basically mislead people to think that it was an original fence. As long as it's a modern vintage, I think it would be appropriate. There's an opening here on the wall that's infilled with stone that would be reopened. I'm sorry, it's an original opening that was refilled in stone. Here is the west basement window that would be reopened and reworked to make an egress window to an existing bedroom. This is the south basement window, yep, that's been infilled with stuff. You can tell where it doesn't match. Here's that, the new proposed back porch with metal stairs going down to the patio. Very simple cable design for a guardrail. It should read as very inconspicuous and open up this whole area on the back so you'll actually be able to see that very cool stone wall on the back, the foundation. Existing and reworked hump on the roof with glass panels, tempered skylights in the top. Here's the carport. It is 3 bays. This building will have, if it's a duplex, it will be required to have 3 parking spaces. And that would take care of that. You could potentially talk rental housing into counting that little garage as a parking space, but I doubt that it's really big enough for most modern vehicles unless somebody's driving a Chevette or a Yugo. The carport would have the effect of formalizing the parking area and keeping people from just parking all over the place. It is a structure and it is going to be pretty visible from East Liberty Street. So it has advantages and potentially some disadvantages. It has vertical board screening on 3 sides, so it won't be entirely transparent. Standing seam metal roof. The whole structure is only about 14 feet tall, and if you consider that there's a 4-foot retaining wall, you're only going to be looking at it from about here on up. Actually, more like this, from here on up when you're looking from Liberty Street. Example of a fence I'd like to use. All right, from the Secretary of Interior standards, I've already read to you 2. Number 5 says, distinctive materials, features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property will be preserved. 6 says, deteriorated historic features will be repaired rather than replaced. Where the severity of deterioration requires replacement of a distinctive feature, the new will match the old in design, color, texture, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features will be substantiated by documentary and physical evidence. I have read to you numbers 9 and 10, and I've read to you this guideline for building site. It's recommended to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space. Health and safety guidelines recommend complying with health and safety codes in such a manner that character-defining spaces, features, and finishes are preserved. For windows, it's not recommended to introduce a new design that's incompatible with the historic character of the building. That's as close as we get to talking about egress windows. Just a couple more notes. The parking area in the back, sorry, I missed that one the wrong way. Parking area in the back is proposed to be the grass pavers, the pavers with holes in them that vegetation can grow through, which I do think is appropriate. The patio is proposed to be a bluestone patio, which also will blend in quite nicely with the site. I had a little email exchange with Carl Huter, the architect, about where the parking area would end in relation to the rest of the yard over here. And it does seem like it would be appropriate to draw some sort of a line from the back of the garage or the back of the house to sort of this area as the maximum size, so that from 2nd Street you still see sort of a gravel 2-track going back here, which has been there for a long time. Staff's opinion is that the work does not destroy historic materials, features, spaces, or spatial relationships that characterize the property, that the new carport is adequately differentiated and compatible in size, scale, and design, and that overall the proposed work enhances the character and historic integrity of the house. One thing to keep in mind is I often get people, it has nothing to do with this application, who come in and say, well, I'll do this if you'll give me that. That's never appropriate. You know, we just follow the guidelines and the standards. I do want to point out, though, that there are a couple of egress windows near the front of the house. This one's not the one on the front of the house. That could potentially be very visible from the street. I think that this is one of them. And
That one just, I thought that one just gets
or that one just gets restored,
with a solid.
repaired. There may be some work that's visible. Quite frankly, an egress window well on this very large house with a lot going on is not going to be very prominent. The wells are proposed to be masonry with one of them they show the grade on the east and the west windows of how deep the wells would be. They are wood, it says here. I sometimes get hung up on egress windows, and I really don't have problems with these, and I just want to make that clear to you guys, that I think they're relatively small and unobtrusive, and even if they're quite visible from the street, there's so much going on in the rest of this house that I don't think they're going to call any attention to themselves, and I think that it's appropriate to sort of repurpose the basement of this house as a single apartment, and that is necessary to do that. So just wanted to let you know that I'm okay with that, and that concludes staff's report.
All right. Commissioner, myself and Commissioner Copeland on the review committee, we can start the report.
You can start this one.
Okay, so first, that window right there, that's under item number 4, which is reestablish basement window at front next to bay. So that one's just reestablish the basement window, it's not an actual egress.
Gotcha.
The one, if you can go to the side stair. See if we can find a good picture of the side stair. That's where there was the most prominent visible, that one.
That one, that's,
Is the most visible
yeah.
egress, and the stair is being pulled away from there and not going to overlap into the well. So would it be fairly prominent? No, I mean, the height of it right now is fairly, I think is big enough. We'll check with the architect right now. I don't
It's
think we
pretty
need to do any
close.
additional cutting. So really, it was just pulling away that little patio and stair area to make room for it. As you can tell, this building is a pretty charming, amazing house. It's got a really cool history and cool fabric to it when you look at it. I'll have some clarification questions on as we move into the application, but by and large, this is a dramatic improvement to this building. We did look at the existing window conditions, and there was only one window that had an existing wood storm. Some of them, there you can see it down there in the bottom left. Some of them had the aluminum storms, so we might have to get some clarification if storms will be added, because we did note in the drawings that some of the windows were going to be restored, and so it would be a shame to restore all these windows and not put some storms to protect them. But the house would really look pretty good with some nice wood storms. What else did we notice? Commissioner Cope, do you want to add anything?
I think that we had a little bit of concern on the carport patio area, if the trees that were there were being cut down or not, and if they were within the period of significance.
Yeah, we only noted that the maple
Maybe,
maybe, but the
specifically.
rest were much younger. Yeah, I mean, I think we kept looking at the house, visualizing it without all the fire escapes, going, wow, that would be really nice. I think we even walked up the back fire escape and then
Walk back
decided it
down.
might be good to get out of there.
The overall, condition of the house now, with the proposed work is really going to shine right there. I don't really have much of an issue with anything. It's just, getting a little bit more specific on the carport area.
Yeah, we were trying to visualize from this picture what the carport would kind of look like or how much space it would fill. But again, it's pulled away from the house, so it really doesn't cause a whole lot of distraction to the house itself. I think the house is fairly well retained
Yeah.
based on that scale.
It wouldn't detract from the house.
So I think, do you have anything else? We're good? All right. Would the applicant please come forward, provide your name again for the record, and sign in. You probably don't have to sign in again, but do you have anything else to add to the staff report?
There's always stuff to add. So, can we go back to the fence? The fence picture.
You want the proposed fence?
This house is spectacular, and I hope when it's done, you all can go inside it. The inside of the house is relatively intact to its original appearance. Even though it was cut into 10 bedrooms, whoever did that work probably was a landlord who didn't want to spend a lot of money, so they didn't do a lot to the inside of the house. And so it's just magnificent inside. So when this is done, and based on the work that my client did next door at 310 2nd Street, I'm sure it's just going to be a great asset. And it's like one of the hinge pins or link pins on the edge of the old west side that's just such an important structure. So I hope that I can go to my maker with this as an example of something I did right. The fence, not only are we going to do the fence, but we're also going to do the boxwood hedge and the plantings along the edge. So we just want this to be so right. Again, my client really cares about this city and wants to do the right thing. The back porch, because of the size of this house, it certainly had people who worked at the house. I'm sure there was a cook and things like that. And there's a door. This went to the original kitchen, And there was a back porch here. I'm sure people went to market during the day and laundry got delivered and whatnot, and it all came up and into here. And I wanted to make this, since there's no pictures of what was there, I tried to do the most minimal thing so it didn't distract. I hope it doesn't distract. So it's all open metalwork there. The carport, we wanted to make it look like a little pavilion, you know, a little tent or something in the back. Do its job, but set into the elevation change there with a nice stone wall. We found a barn out in the country that's dilapidated, and we're going to recover all those cut field stones and bring them in here so they're the same character as the foundation walls of the house. And again, as Joe pointed out, it's all grass pavers, so it'll grow in. And again, we look at that more as you get the cars out of there, you have this nice little pavilion and this sort of paved area in the back. Be a great place to have summer parties and whatnot. We sort of envision the top 3 floors as being a townhouse and renting it out to someone who's going to use it as their residence, but not, they won't be there permanently, but as a townhouse. You can ask me more questions. There's so much going on here. I hope I know we're advancing this to a better place.
Great, thank you. I'll move on to the public hearing, or first, are there commissioners have any questions for the applicant? All right, public hearing, members of the public.
I had a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, I was nodding. Not move on, but question, yeah. Yes. Carl, back to that porch, the minimal steel porch. Can you describe the side elevation of the steel brackets and also how they're going to attach to the existing house, please?
So I haven't designed the side, okay? So it's in my imagination, you're going to have a horizontal and a vertical and a diagonal, and it'll be as small element as I can structurally put in there, and then I'm going to bolt it to the wall of the house. And I was going to use largish sort of bolts back, sort of thinking that everything back then would have been wrought iron of some sort, and we're just going to bolt it through the masonry, and then probably have a large plate on the inside to hold it. And that'll be covered by the drywall on the inside.
Also, for the skylights, can we go to that drawing? This is also sort of a conceptual drawing. Can you sort of take us through, just like you did with the brackets, kind of what I see like there's like the most minimalist frame at the bottom there in the valley. Is that your concept and your design intent, or is there more structure there that we're just kind of not seeing because it's a conceptual drawing?
Well, there'll be a larger wood member underneath the finer mullions that you see there.
Okay.
We're going to reclad the outside with copper, and that'll age to a deep brown color, and not in our lifetime. It might turn green, but we are cleaning up the atmosphere. It may not. Well, eventually, a couple hundred years. And so we're doing a custom framing job there to get light dumping down that stair. There's 2 stairways in the house. There's a servant's stair and a main stairway. This is over the servant's stair. But I'm trying to, it's such a terrible ward up there. I want to cut it down as much as I can.
Okay. So I can see arguments both ways on this. I'm just going to throw it up just because I don't have an opinion either way. But you had selected the copper cladding on the siding, and I had found that there are portions of the house, very small detail portions of the house that have some fish scale as a siding. It's in one of the gables tucked under.
I think the east gable, yeah.
Yeah, and so it made me think, well, I wonder if this would be appropriate for kind of some sort of siding or a fish scale siding rather than a copper, because it just introduced a whole new element, new material. Yeah. And again, as I said, I'm not really sure if I have an opinion either way yet on that, but it just made me think about introducing another material to the house. So I'd like to, we could get to the discussion part, and maybe we ask some other commissioners too, but if you had any other thoughts on it.
Well, my thinking was, a lot of sheet metal work was done at that time, and it's such a small thing, and it's not at the end of a gable. I looked at the fish scale, and I thought about it. I said, well, in the gable, I could see fish scale in the gable because you're reinforcing the architectural elements there. But this is, I
It's not an element you
didn't
wanna-
think them.
Yeah.
I just didn't think them as the same kind of thing, so I didn't want to apply that element there.
Yeah.
So I tried to do things consciously, but that was my reasoning.
Okay. It would be a lot better than the asphalt shingle siding, for sure, whatever is up there, but.
It's a great example of bird mouthing.
Just all right, any other questions for the applicant? All right, public hearing, we kind of did that. I can now close the public hearing portion of the application. The applicant may please be seated. Would any commissioners like to make a motion on this application? I got a sort of one down there, okay. Commissioner Hall.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 403 West Liberty, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to remove all fire escapes, unblock infilled windows, install several egress windows and wells, replace concrete porch steps with wood, replicate original porch skirting, construct a new rear porch and stair to an existing door, lower the non-original hump on the roof, and add a skylight to it. Construct a 3-car carport, add pavers and a patio, and add a 30-inch high wrought iron fence along the 2 street fronts as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, materials, in relationship to the house and the surrounding area, and meets the City of Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines and the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and Guidelines for Rehabilitating Historic Buildings. In particular, Standards 2, 9, and 10, and the Guidelines for District or Neighborhood Setting, Building Site, Health and Safety, and Windows.
Support.
Seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Well, I would,
Commissioner Hall?
well, just to your point about the wart, I would agree with the architect here that it was non-original to the building, and to bring in elements that were original to the building would maybe not be appropriate, and to kind of keep it minimal and separate.
What about even just a wood clapboard rather than a, because at first
I mean,
it's
you
going to
can
be
make
pretty
it
shiny as a metal, as a
Yeah,
copper.
with copper, but it'll fade.
If you look at the note, we're patenting it. Right off.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Any other discussion?
I'm okay with it.
At the site visit and, visiting it and still looking through the overall site plan. Do you mind bringing the site plan up? I still don't necessarily believe with the carport and the sizing of the carport. I know it won't be super visible from West Liberty, but I also know that it's taking away a lot of vegetation through there. And there is kind of like a natural look through down that whole back neighborhood if you go back to the photo from the sidewalk. And you're going to kind of take away that whole view that goes kind of through the neighborhood as you're walking through there. I'm okay with approving it as is, but I'd also be, okay with approving it, maybe separating out the carport and the patio into a different application with just more specific drawings on the wall and the carport, and how those are going to actually be laid out and which trees are being removed in that area. Specifically, the maple tree that looks to be at least a 80 or 90-year-old maple tree.
So, Max, I guess to your point, I would really just get into the guidelines, and I'm
Yeah.
going to pull out of the guidelines about building sites. I think that's the one I was looking at. So really, does the new carport to you, is it a feature that obscures features of the site that are important to defining its overall historic character?
I would say no, I believe not. So it does fall in that guideline.
So you're finding that it's okay
Yeah.
in that sense, yeah. So that to me is where it fits in the most.
Okay.
So that's where I was using the carport as it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
I believe that the garages south of this house on Second they're close to the back of the homes, which, I mean, I guess when you're looking down, are you then seeing that the carport is even further behind the garages
Yes.
that are to the south?
Yes.
Okay. Because there's there was one that just came up that I was at with you, Commissioner Beeson, and that was
that's the
further.
angle I'm looking
That was
at.
the tunnel one that was, yeah, a couple together. That's only a couple houses down from this,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, 2 houses.
Well, that's the sight line I was looking at right there. is
Right.
Where that carport's going to go between, well, where that maple tree is, and through there, that kind of sight line through the neighborhood is going to be obstructed, but it is a corner lot, so.
Yeah.
Right.
The applicant want to respond to anything?
Well,
You might have to come up to the mic.
In reference to this picture here, so you're looking down, it's a good point, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, this big open yard was part of the character, and so I thought we pushed it down and kept a low pitch on it and made it like a pavilion structure. But you're looking into the side of 310 Second, and then on the right-hand side is the end of the 310 Second garage that went through here, I don't know, 10 years ago, I forget what. You can just see it right there where the arrow is. And then you.
Oh,
and then
there's
you're
a garage
looking
there.
at,
It's behind the shrub.
I think it's set back a little bit farther.
now move your arrow to the
left.
picture left, yeah, keep going. There's the corner of the garage right.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
there's a little shiny thing. You see that? Yep. Through the shrubbery.
And then the next house, which is 314, is coming in here next year. And then there's a big fence to the next property.
Okay.
But I agree with that. There was no other place to put a garage on the property. And
Other
we
than
thought-
where the existing
We thought it
is.
was, and just the west side has the screening on it. So from this side, there'll be the roof, and then you'll be looking
Through?
through it underneath it.
Okay.
But it's buried up against that retaining wall.
Oh, so the screening's
I
only
thought
on the
the
west?
screening said three
Okay.
sides.
I thought it was
did it?
fully screened.
Okay, then that was a late at night note that was misapplied. It should just be the one side, the west side.
It's drawing number 12.
Vertical board screening three sides
Student
is just,
controls.
should just say west side?
Yes, it should just be the west side. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Cope, does that change things in your opinion?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm okay with the application as is. It's just, we're in Ann Arbor, cutting down big, healthy trees is,
That maple tree is not going to come down.
it's not. Okay. Okay. Because it seemed just in the site plan where it was lined up and being on site there, it just bringing the carport as far as close to the property line, it looked like that tree was getting removed.
Right, so because I've lived here my entire life, here's a little historic fact. My brother and I, in 1967, started a company called North American Hardwoods, and we thought that these trees in the city that died and came down should be recycled. And so as a junior and a senior in high school, we started this logging company, and we were reprocessing trees at that time, I think way ahead of when it is now. But there are companies now that do this, but this tree shouldn't come down. It's near enough to the property line that we can adjust where that,
Being
how the
fit
pavilion is
inside
set.
of it.
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah, you're just doing pole foundations.
That's right, we're just
So-
poking holes in the ground, so
Yeah,
I'm,
so you're not really
I
affecting the
thought about
roots.
that too, so we're not impacting the root structure, so. If that's the chief concern,
That's my that's my main concern.
that tree, and you can put that in there, I guess, if you want, but
The
that's.
Lorax.
Commissioners, just one more thing to keep in mind. This is a very bucolic view that you're looking at on the screen. Imagine 6 cars parked back there, and it's not quite as lovely a landscape as it is on
Yeah.
this day, at this moment. So just keep that in mind when you're figuring out where you want the cars to go in a more structured way.
And there is still significant yard and
Yeah.
green area in the area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. All right, your application has been approved. You will receive written notification from staff, and should you have any further questions, feel free to contact staff. Be sure to pull any necessary building permits before starting the work. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, next on the agenda is G, new business. Do we have any new business?
Nope.
All right, H, approval of minutes. Looks like I move past the review of minutes for the next.
Yeah, please just postpone those.
Postpone is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
I, reports from commissioners. Do we have any commissioners have reports to present? I don't think so.
Next month.
Next month. All right, on to assignments. Commissioners who are willing to serve on next month's review committee, March 5th at noon for the March 8th. I have some news to report for Max. I will not be here on March 8th.
Huh.
So I
Great.
can't do the review committee anyway, so.
Do you have that sheet of paper?
I'll go ahead and take that home with me.
Make copies
A
of that.
few prints of it.
I'll be all right.
Any commissioners
Already
to
have
serve on the review
sweet
committee?
palms. I won't be able to do the review committee.
Will not?
No.
Anyone?
This is either the last noontime review committee or the second to last one. I can't remember for sure. It's either March or
March,
April is the
April,
last
yeah.
one. So we'll be switching to 5 o'clock soon, if that matters to anyone.
Yes, it matters to me. I can do 5.
I'll volunteer, seeing
All
as
right.
no others are speaking up. I can move my thing that I have to another time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will be here, but it's no good for me to, unless I can and not
No, you
attend the
can't.
meeting. That's
You
not a good
can't.
idea, right?
We have Dave. Anybody else?
At 12 o'clock or 5 o'clock?
12
o'clock.
o'clock on Monday, March 5th.
I cannot attend that, and I'm questionable for that meeting. I'll have to let you know.
You can put me down.
Okay. Thank
I'll
you,
do it.
Jess. Great, thank you.
There's a very, yeah. I already know I'm going to be gone that Monday.
All right. Reports from staff. Would you like to review the staff activities for January, which I think is in our packet, right?
Yep. Pretty short.
Yeah,
That's called cold weather.
yeah. Oh, it looks like Pat McCauley had something
It's
here.
pretty heavy on former commissioners there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
it
I
is. It is.
They knew that's
got
the
a
best time to
few.
go in.
Who else is?
Tom Stolberg,
Yeah.
Patrick McCauley. Those are the only two.
Excellent, outstanding work, Joe.
Yep, good job. Right, where am I now? Communications, assignments, reports from staff, concerns of commissioners. Any concern? No. Communications, any communications?
I don't have any, no.
No. And now we're at adjournment. There being no further business, and without objection, I gotta get my gavel. And without objection, I will adjourn the February 8th, 2018 Ann Arbor Historic District Commission meeting.
Well done.